Now we're moving to Yemen, where the U.S. launched its fourth drone strike in the country in the past 10 days, killing 4 suspected al-Qaida fighters in an area in central Yemen. The last strike on August 1st killed 5 fighters in the eastern province of Hadramaut. The United States and the United Kingdom told their citizens in Yemen to leave the country immediately due to the threat of, quote, a terrorist attack. The statement on the U.S. Embassy of Yemen's website includes this cautionary note: U.S. citizens seeking to depart Yemen are responsible for making their own travel arrangements. The State Department also said it had ordered all non-essential U.S. government staff in Yemen to leave the country. But as NBC's Richard Engel pointed out on Twitter, he writes, for security reasons, State Department will not release the number of staff that have left Yemen, nor the number that remain. Now, the news comes just 1 week after Yemen's President Hadi visited the U.S. meeting with President Obama to discuss counterterrorism policies, political reform, and to lobby senators to repatriate 56 Yemeni detainees in Guantanamo who had been cleared for transfer. Now, while Obama had promised to end a U.S. ban on sending detainees back to Yemen, Republicans in the House of Representatives have voted to block the move. Joining us now to discuss the latest developments from Yemen is Hakeem al-Masmari, an American journalist that is the publisher and editor-in-chief of the Yemen Post. I want to start by asking you, as an American there, I've been following your tweets, and I see that you are concerned that you're essentially being left on your own. Why are you not leaving?
It seems that if you want to travel to the U.S., whether as a journalist or as an American, it's very complicated and difficult because the U.S. government will not even help you in the booking of the travel booking. So for me as a journalist, I think this is the time that I'm supposed to be here in Yemen, but at the same time, I have family and children who are American, and it could have been very helpful for the U.S. government if this was very serious to help them be evacuated.
And Hakeem, I understand that you have written an article for the Yemen Post in which you have an excerpt that we want to read to you and have you extrapolate. This is what you say: in Sana'a, the fears and worries of ordinary citizens was not from al-Qaida, but rather from the U.S. drones that were roaming the skies of the Yemeni capital for the very first time. What do you mean by that? And is there evidence that that's the case?
Yes, that is the case, and the evidence that the Yemeni people are not afraid of al-Qaida, because al-Qaida will always fight and attack soldiers and troops and militants and other militants. They will never attack civilians, whereas the drones at times, mistakenly, they would attack civilians, like in the last 10 days of the 13 who were killed, 3 were civilians. So if you were in Sana'a, you would realize that all morning and yesterday all night, you had drones flying all over Sana'a, and this was very worrying. People were at home sitting and afraid that this could go wrong, like it went wrong earlier years ago in Albion when tens of civilians were killed in previous drone strikes.
So I understand what you're saying, and it's a common criticism by those living in Yemen. And just to illustrate your point, I want to share with our audience, this is a tweet from Iona Craig, who's there, saying the vibrations from whatever it is buzzing away, doing laps over Sana'a, just made my windows rattle. We also have Afrah Nasser, who lives in Europe, but who is from Yemen, saying, as Americans are urged to leave Yemen, Yemenis also urge the CIA to keep its drone strikes away from Yemen. Hakeem, I understand the drone strikes are not popular. We have had many guests on this program who suggest that the drone strikes are like Guantanamo, like the fact that detainees are still there, is a recruitment tool for al-Qaida and for other extremists. But as an American, surely you must understand that presumably if there's intelligence, if these embassies are shut down, that there's a threat that al-Qaida poses, if not to the Yemeni people, as you suggest, to America. What do you make of that and the fact that the Yemeni president was just meeting with Obama just days before these strikes?
Exactly, but one important note is that these drones are flying on Yemeni skies, and I talked to numerous Yemeni officials, whether from the National Security or Interior Ministry. They all denied that they had any information from the U.S. government on real evidence for these attacks taking place. It's all, no evidence was handed over. No concrete evidence has been handed over to the Yemeni government, according to our knowledge. So Yemenis right now are lost. Yes, they believe the U.S. government that this is a real threat, but at the same time, they're asking for more evidence so they can show the people that Yemen is not being occupied by a foreign country or that al-Qaeda is a real threat, especially since the last al-Qaeda attack in Yemen was last year, a year and 3 months ago.
And you know, when we talk about the drone strikes specifically, as I'm sure you know, the Bureau of Investigative Journalism has created and documented all known drone strikes. Of course, the U.S. government has been less than transparent, to put it very lightly, about the accountability and these drone strikes, the point you're making. I just want to share with you some of these graphs. This is from the Bureau of Investigative Journalism, showing in 2002 just one strike. This is the minimum confirmed. And it's increased into 2012, reaching a high of well over 80. But in 2013, as of yet, there have been less drone strikes, as you know. And, you know, they have several graphs. This shows the minimum confirmed killed. Of course, we don't know explicitly if they are, in fact, combatants, although the U.S. government claims that they are. What do you make of the trend? The fact that you're saying there are some officials that you speak to who aren't confirming that there is a threat or that people were, in fact, killed, but the Yemeni president being in the U.S. with Obama at the same time that these strikes are happening, that the embassies are closing, surely suggests something. What does this suggest for you as someone who covers this story on the ground?
Let's be honest. The most secure zone in the entire country is the area where the U.S. Embassy and the British Embassy are located. That zone is more secure than the presidential palace itself. So it's very difficult to see that there would be an attack there because there's hundreds of security forces who are located in those areas with many armored vehicles and tanks, etc. So it's not as easy as someone would, would imagine. Last year when there were protests, there were thousands protesting. So it's a different case than when you say that al-Qaeda will go and attack, especially when there's so strong security presence. I'm also having doubts that I do believe that al-Qaeda is a threat, that al-Qaeda wants to have a major attack in Sana'a, but this was over-exaggerated of evacuating certain people out of the country, whereas you're located in the safest place of the capital, or maybe just to remove the eyes of the world from Egypt to Yemen. Who knows?
And one last point that I just want to bring up in terms of the evacuation, Hakeem, I'm just pulling up one of your tweets. As we mentioned, this is it. You're responding to someone on Twitter who's in Yemen. You're saying it would be fair to say, quote, if you are British or American in Yemen, you are on your own. Now, when we compare that with this tweet, Haikal Bafana just moments ago saying 2 massive U.S. Air Force transport planes have just arrived in Sana'a airport, not unloading, probably to evacuate embassy staff. Do you feel alone?
It's not that. The actions of the U.S. government makes us feel or lose credibility of, is this all serious? I mean, why isn't all Americans treated the same if this is a real threat? Probably because they want certain information to be revealed, or who travels and who not, in case they want to do it the way they want. But this also gives less credibility to the entire story, because what value do some Americans have over others?
Certainly. And Haikam, I want to thank you for joining us and for asking these questions. And hopefully, I hope you stay safe and that you can join us in the future.
Thank you.